Hey friend, it's me Vasco with a quick announcement. We at the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast are organizing this year's Scrum Master Summit. For tickets and details on the summit, check out the URL bit.ly/SM Summit 22. All one word, SMSUMMIT 22. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Team Tuesday. This week, we have joining us from the Netherlands, Jeroen de Jong. Hi, Jeroen. Welcome back.
Hello again, Vasco.
So, Jeroen, on Tuesdays, we talk about teams. But of course, before we go into that, we also want to know, what was the book that most influenced you in your career as a Scrum Master?
I actually tend to read quite a lot. And most of the times, books are for me, given a certain situation, I'm interested in this or that. So there are multiple books that stood out for me. Right now, I'm thinking back on the Getting Things Done book from David Allen, because I started reading it again. I see a lot of similarities with Agile, with Scrum, within the process of getting things done, how David Allen subscribes it.
Give us an example of what that is, the similarities between the Getting Things Done or GTD and Agile and Scrum.
Getting things done, GTD, it's all about getting the stuff that's cramped in your head and that's causing you for a lot of stress and a lot of things to do, to get that out of your head and basically make it visible in a to-do list or in lists. David Allen describes how you can do that. It's basically a methodology in how you can approach getting rid of all this information in your head. And he names it stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in your head. Put it somewhere, put it in an in-tray and start processing that. And while processing, what is it? Is there anything actionable from it? If there isn't anything actionable in it, you can just trash it. You can get rid of it.
That's actually a very important concept. So the idea of actionable, right? Because a lot of things that we give our teams, the Agile teams we're supposed to support, are actually not actionable, right? Like they are very high level fuzzy ideas. Not only are they not actionable, and then we go and ask them to estimate how long it takes to do something that is not actionable. So I really like that concept as well, that I think David Allen describes very, very well in the GTD or Getting Things Done method.
Yeah, basically the first similarity I saw, well, basically your to-do list or your list, it's a form of a product backlog. It's all the information that you want to do in some way to achieve your own goal, your current goal, your life goal, the things that you're obliged to do. Just writing those things down, noting it down, you make it visible. There's a lot of things that you need to do. And it also gives you something to look back at. Well, I'm not going to forget about it because it's here. And with GTD, you periodically review those lists. And you check, well, what's in there, and what of those things am I actually going to do right now? What's the priority on that? What's the value that I'm getting out of now? So that's again, reflecting back to the product backlog, visualizing all the work that's there, making things actually actionable. So instead of just writing down buy a car, you probably need to do some steps before you're actually going to buy that car. You want to look around, you want to try out cars.
Check YouTube for reviews.
Check YouTube, but even if you say, well, I want to buy this specific car, then you still have to make additional steps. You probably need to figure out where the garage is in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think David Allen does a really great job of distinguishing what's actionable of what's not actionable when he says that the things you want at the end are called projects, right? And the stuff you do are the actionable things. And very often, like an example in our teams, in the Scrum teams, very often user stories are actually whole projects, right? They have many actionable parts into it. Now, some teams will break stories down into tasks, but one of the anti-patterns that very often happens there is that they try to predict how the project will be completed. And one of the things that GTD really gives you, I think, a very beautiful concept is never go more than the next actionable item, right? Keep the project in mind, but only write down the next actionable item, or one or two or three or whatever, like a very short list. And I think that's also a great example of how you can be agile about managing work, right? You're leaving the plan kind of open-ended in the more uncertain areas of the plan, right? The further you go in time.
Yeah, indeed. And then it's also about saying no, about that discipline that you need to set yourself. Well, you need to actually do that review once in a while. So that can be, if you compare it to Agile, it can be a refinement session, or it can be the sprint planning itself. You have that periodically check in, where am I currently doing? What is the next thing that I'm going to do?
By the way, just last week, if I remember correctly, somebody mentioned GTD by David Allen. So maybe the universe is trying to tell us something.
Yeah, it might be.
So, now we turn our attention to the teams, the focus of our attention, and also those that we are trying to help. So walk us through a story of a team. Tell us a little bit about the context, but then tell us about how those small things happened that eventually developed to a bigger anti-pattern in that team.
I've coached a lot of teams in the past, but one thing that one pattern that I see returning in a lot of teams is that teams aren't actually teams. It's a bunch of individuals, but they also approach the work that they pick up during the sprint. So instead of having one clear goal where everybody actually works together, it's already very hard to set that goal for the team, because there are a lot of things to do. But also everybody has their own project. Everybody has their own tasks. So everybody is working individually. And even the one of the last projects I was at, I came there, and the first thing that I noticed was during the refinement and during the planning sessions, people were already defining the task. Well, this task that involves this application, so that's for this person. The other task involves this application, so there's this person. This task needs testing, so that needs to be done for the tester, because the tester is the person that needs to do everything. So instead of actually having the discussion together and see how can we approach this, how can we make this work, it was more the work itself was already.
So was it that the product owner was already writing down the tasks that the team needed to do, or how did that go?
Partly the product owner, who was helping the team maintaining that stance.
So the product owner was working at the task level then already.
Yeah, as well, but that was as requested by the team itself. And when I started there as a Scrum Master, a lot of times I also asked, but what happens if one of you is on a holiday? What happens if something goes wrong there?
So the product owner was supposed to know who of the team was there, when they were going to be away, what kind of skills they had, and so on. And the team was kind of offloading to the product owner, a little bit like in the old days, people would offload to the project manager the task of planning everything, like who takes what at what day and when do they deliver it, right?
Yeah, almost. And they were themselves also very strictly in, but I'm a tester, so I'm not going to develop. And the developers, I'm a developer, so I'm not going to test. Clear silos of individuals, and also basically the applications they were working from with Salesforce and with some other software packages.
And that definitely leads to that anti-pattern, like the silos, I mean, because if you think about it for a second, if you have a couple of silos in a team, then somebody needs to know what part of the work can be done by what silos. Then they need to break down the user stories into those different types of work. And then they need to know when those people are free so that they can put those stories into the sprint backlog. And it's like there's a lot of pre-planning that is needed once the team is divided into these silos.
Yeah, but even the pre-planning, basically what was happening was, if there was a project, as David Allen calls that, or a user story, basically was one user story, was one person in the team that was going to pick it up. So even if there were multiple tasks there, that person sort of was the project manager for that specific story. And they were trying to do everything there. And it was really hard to true to that team. Well, how can you ask for help? How can you actually work together instead of working apart from each other?
So how do you do that these days? Because of course, as you said, like this is an anti-pattern that very often recurs. And I'm sure everyone listening to us has had at least one team where there were very strong silos in the team. So how do we help these teams? What are your thoughts and your advice, Jeroen?
Yeah, I think the best answer is it depends. Because I can see, and I've seen a lot of different reasons why this is happening. It can be that the individual itself, they don't have I'm not sure if saying that they don't have the right mindset, but at least they don't have the experience yet that they can see that it is possible to work together, or it is possible, or it is allowed to actually help together. It can also be enhanced by a product owner that has a technical background and that's doing a lot of pre-refinement work, basically making those tasks, splitting everything up already before the team itself, but also even the organization around it. I've also worked with companies that have a lot of different projects, a lot of actual projects or products even, and they only have one team to support that, and then you don't have that clear focus because.
Yeah, then you play Tetris with people's time,
Yeah.
right? Like that, it's a very common anti-pattern, especially for people that have a project management background. And here, of course, I have to raise my hand and say I'm one of those that have done that, right? Like playing Tetris with people's time. One of the things that comes to mind, though, is that as we focus more and more on the tasks, on the small things that have to be divided over the different silos, we also lose track of why we are doing certain things. And this has two anti-patterns associated with it, which is the first, that the team members define their success as having done task X, even if task X is the wrong thing to do, and very often that's the case. And also that we are delegating the definition of success to somebody we never talk to, because probably not even the product owner is responsible for the definition of success. In organizations where silos are strong, product owners are very often siloed themselves, right? Like they're supposed to own this small part of a bigger set of functionality that adds value, and they focus on that small part and forget that actually it's not the database that needs to be more performant. It's that we need a different set of products to be available to the customers, right?
That's right. So yeah, it depends how you would approach it. With the last team, I tried to make it visible. So basically what I saw happening in the amount of work that we were picking up. So I think Henrik Kniberg has a nice talk about it with a couple of sticky notes where you put every user story has to be, you have to do a couple of tasks. Ideally, you would try to do all the tasks and finish up one user story, then go to the next, then to the next. But what's happening now is that there are 3 user stories simultaneously being picked up, and everybody is working simultaneously. But that's leaving a lot of that's making a lot of dependencies with each other.
And it's making it even harder to deliver anything, right?
Yeah. So if you make it visible, and Henrik Kniberg does that in a very well way, it's clear to see that if you put the sticky notes next to each other, then ideally, if you simplify it, there's 3 user stories, and you should be able to finish those 3 user stories within, for instance, 3 weeks, where every user story takes 1 week. If you do it simultaneously, you basically still can do it within those 3 weeks time range, but there's already a big difference, because in the first situation where everybody's working on one task to get one thing out there, then you already have a working product after that first week. Although if you do it simultaneously, in the ideal world, you have 3 weeks to get everything there. And then, that's not realistic, because there are dependencies, you have context switching. So if you start taking that into mind,
and surprises, interruptions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Then all of a sudden that time period is growing longer and longer and longer.
Absolutely. We'll put the link on the show notes for people to go and watch that video and really thoroughly understand that concept of managing the work in progress or limiting the work in progress. Thank you very much for sharing that story, Jeroen. Hey friends, it's Vasco again, now with a bit longer announcement. I'm part of the team that is behind the Global Scrum Master Summit, the conference dedicated to the Scrum Master role. If you're a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master Summit is a place to learn, to share, and of course to meet new friends. We will have lots of live sessions where you can meet and network with other Scrum Masters from the whole globe. So make sure you check it at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. We have several amazing keynotes and 7 tracks that feature people like you and of course thought leaders sharing their insights, their knowledge, and helping you become an awesome Scrum Master. You can check out all of the details of the summit, including the keynotes announced, the track chairs, and much more at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. That's all one word. That's bit.ly/SM SUMMIT and the numeral 22. I'll see you on the conference floor.